What is good? What is good, everybody, man? Man, I like these joint lives, Scotty, bro. So make sure to like the stream on Scotty's channel. Head over to my channel, like the stream over there. Split your time accordingly. But man, guys, welcome in. Appreciate all y'all tuning in. It's me, my boy Scotty here. Y'all know we are the round table, and we are here to talk about the All-American list that broke Instagram last night. Light on Sports. You know, posted it. We talked about it all day, and as soon as he posted it, all hell broke loose, to say the least, man. And now, I feel like the kid Scotty who got in trouble with the substitute teacher. Now we can never have like movie day when like subs come. Like I ruined it for the whole class. Hero Sports don't get a poll no more. Athlon Sports, you don't get a poll. It's a sad day, man. But listen, we dropped our inaugural preseason FCS All-American list, man. This has been months in the making. Before we get into it, shout out to all the schools that made graphics, that dropped press releases. Shout out to VMI, Portland State, Sacred Heart.
Come on, keep coming.
I mean, Southern, UT Martin. The list goes on and on. Wagner, Campbell. Man, there's been so many people who have supported the poll. Man, shout out to all the SIDs, ADs I talked to that got back to me. We got the hookup now. So man, shout out to everyone who supported the poll, man. But Scotty, talk to the people, man. Let them know what we're doing today.
Man, listen, we get into the nitty gritty. Listen, we ain't playing no games. We doing it. You can either call in on Blue's call line. You can call on my call line. It does not matter. It's going to get answered regardlessly. If you have any questions for my man Blue, Blue, what you wearing? What you wearing?
I got the Andrew Body hoodie.
Oh, I was wondering what.
Listen, they custom made it, Bluebloods style, everything, man.
Listen, bro, I'm like, I ain't got that one. I'm looking over like, what? I'm like, what are you wearing? Oh, that's nice, Mama Body. The disrespect, Mama Body. How I not get a custom one? And I've been Andrew Body for like the past whole year. But okay, we gonna talk about. I got your number, Mama Body. I'm gonna call you after.
But Scotty said Andrew not on any All-American list for him as payback moving forward.
I love Andrew too much to do that, but I'm on. Listen, I might be on that bandwagon, but no, for seriously, we here to talk about we here to talk about your All-American list, man. Listen, I said it earlier today. The disrespect that was shown to you is buffoonery. Because at the end of the day, what you do and the time and effort that you put in to make these lists, and half these Bamas out here don't even watch FCS football outside of the SWAC and the MEAC, is just pure ridiculousness. But if you got any questions, I'm going to bring up some of the charts. We're going to talk about him. He's going to give you his reasons why he picked who he picked. He's going to give you the reasons, the stats, the analytics, because my boy Blue, that's what he's about. So he's going to give you all that, and we're going to get right into it. But before I get into that, we had some sense. Bama's out here being. Listen, somebody just needs to make a whole emotional track for my boy Tony Gray. That boy is emotional. All right, so Tony Gray comments and says this is a joke. A&M football news, which is not a what's that word they use? What do they like to use?
It's not an official.
It's not an official account. He says like your blocking skills. Oh, and then he says, and then Kid Clark, he gonna come protect us, man. But listen, man, that that boy emotional. That boy is emotional. Any day of the week is emotional. But let's get into this list, Blue. It's just too funny to me. First up, QBs. All right, QBs. Break them down.
Yeah, man. Listen, the first name I put on the list, Jason Shelley. Well, listen, when you're the player of the year in the Missouri Valley Conference, threw for over 3,000 yards, had over 40 total touchdowns on the year, was the newcomer of the year as well in the MVFC. Easy pick there for Jason Shelley on first team. Now, the controversy came really and truly, I get it. But for me, regardless if you run an air raid, regardless if you run a spread, a triple option, whatever you want to say, a power I offense, whatever you say, if you're a quarterback, you're a quarterback. And if Xavier Shepherd can't be classified as quarterbacks, we got to make up a position for him of all purpose or something, because that dude led the entire country, Scotty, FBS or FCS in rushing touchdowns with 23.
Ooh.
Threw for 15 touchdowns, was the Big South Player of the Year, was a consensus first team All-American at the postseason, was the only quarterback to make athlon. I was nice. I did 2 quarterbacks on the team. Athlon said we get 1 quarterback. Everyone else don't get an award. So I went to Xavier Shepherd deserves it. If I didn't put him at quarterback, I would have made up a position of all purpose on my team for him. He's a first team All-American. It's not his fault that he plays in a triple option offense, and to throw for 15 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards in a triple option offense is really, really hard to do.
You're doing something right. Now, me and Blue talked about this earlier, and I think, if I'm being honest, Shepherd and Shador and Musket, you know, those, if you're trying to switch either, if somebody, because I know somebody says Musket is the man, you know, you got Jack State people who feel Shador is the man. To me, I feel like it's what kind of style you're looking for. If you're looking for a pro style type guys, then yeah, you'll go with the Musket and Shador. But to take away, you know, Xavier Shepherd's athleticism and say, well, he's not a quarterback, or he's not being what quarterbacks need to do. He's asked to lead his team in a certain way. He's doing it at a high level, so it has to count for what it counts for. Go ahead, Blue.
Second team, I feel like Shador and Tony Musket are pretty similar quarterbacks, pro-style quarterbacks, and offenses that put up good numbers, but not Eric Berry or Cole Kelly numbers, if that makes sense. They put up great numbers, just not those numbers that are going to be on SportsCenter, where Eric Berry is throwing for 8 touchdowns against Idaho. I mean, really and truly. And yes, I see the comment. Shador is a pro-style quarterback. He's not a scrambler, nothing. He's a pro-style quarterback. And he's got prototypical size, just like Musket. Musket's a 2-time Big South All-American, was the freshman of the year in the Big South. Both efficient, both had over 65% of their passes completed. I thought they both belonged on the list, man.
All right, let's get to where we going up next. We going wide receivers, Blue. Wide receivers, you got Xavier Gibson, Tyler Grimes, Tyrone Scott, Shaq, Freddie, and Jalen Witcher. Talk to me.
Man, listen, the wide receivers were the hardest position to pick. Not who made the list necessarily, but I think they were one of the hardest to place on first or second team, especially Gibson, Grimes, Scott, and Witcher. Man, I don't care what team they're on. Those guys are all Americans. And when you look at Xavier Gibson, man, I got his stats here, Scotty, for you. 74 catches, 1,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, and had the highest grade for a wide receiver in the country at a 91.3, according to Advanced Analytics.
Wow. That's nasty.
Yeah.
That's nasty. And Stephen F. Austin is your sleeper pick to the national championship.
Because of him. I mean, Trey Self was probably the next quarterback if I had to pick one for Stephen F. Austin, if I had to pick 5 to put on the list. But Xavier Gibson, to me, is the best wide receiver in the FCS, and it's not a debate. It's not a debate in terms of production. And Taylor Grimes is the same way, man. Listen, 87 catches, 1,100 yards, 15 touchdowns for Incarnate Word last year.
Now, give us the height on these guys, because, you know, some people, you know, height matters in some aspects of receivers. So
Gibson's a prototypical guy. He's like 6'2", around there. Grimes is more of a slot guy. He's a bit smaller. Off the top of my head, he's probably right around 6 foot, maybe 5'11", or so. So he's not going to be your go-getter in terms of one-on-one situations. He's going to be a guy you hit underneath, and he's going to go make plays in open space. But he's a reliable target. And, you know, I hate making pro comparisons, but you know, he's the type of guy similar to like a Julian Edelman that's going to be a go-to guy on third down. You need a few yards. He's not going to drop the ball, and he's going to go make a play.
Too easy.
Just a playmaker. And Tyrone Scott is really on here. I mean, listen, it really helps that you have one Bobby Petrino calling your offense, and you got the best quarterback in the FCS right now, Jason Shelley, throwing you the football.
And that doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, he put up over 1,100 yards, 60-something catches, and almost 10 touchdowns. I mean, he's there. The one I would say is I think you could switch Jalen Witcher and Tyrone Scott if you want. That's where I think the hard distinction was. I gave it to Scott because he's played at a higher level longer because he's a junior. Witcher was a freshman last year for Presbyterian. And Witcher was a freshman for Presbyterian last year, transferred to Delaware this offseason, which is why you see him in a Delaware jersey. But Witcher, man, listen, this kid has one of the brightest futures in FCS, the wide receiver spot, as a true freshman, Scotty, on a Presbyterian team that was not very good. 82 catches, 1,100 yards, and 12 touchdowns as a true freshman.
As a true freshman?
True freshman, straight out of high school.
That ain't.
Yeah. Listen, I really and truly, if I think if anyone says Jalen Witcher should be first team, I have no problem with it. Xavier Gibson and Grimes, consensus first team. There's no debating it. No FCS analyst or anybody will debate that. Witcher and Scott, I can see the debate. Then the final two spots, I think this is where, for me, looking back, every list is made and you put a lot of work in, and there's always those guys you kind of overlook or like, man, I probably didn't make the best decision there.
Mm-hmm.
Abdul should have been on second team. Abdul from Alabama A&M, really and truly looking back on it, probably should have been second team. I put Shaq Davis because he put up his stats with uncertainty at the quarterback spot. Corey Fields was very inconsistent early, and also on top of that, they ran the ball a lot early in the season. So I think he had a tougher time getting his stats. And then finally, in the biggest game of the year, Shaq Davis put on a show.
Absolutely.
And for me, looking at it, and that's why I put the poll on my YouTube channel, stats, analytics, film, all of it matters. And then the fourth thing is, can you show up when it in like those games?
Yeah.
And that moment, South Carolina State was on the verge of getting blown out early in that game. Like, it just felt watching that game that if Jackson State puts up a touchdown or one of those turnovers don't happen, it's over. And Shaq Davis was the guy in the second half to really turn the tide. And he missed, I believe, 3 weeks. Don't quote me on that, but I believe he missed 3 weeks too. So I think his stats would have been a little bit better. And then Freddie Robertson, man, listen, he also missed a little bit of time, but when he was on the field, he was one of the top targets for Eric Berry and Eastern Washington. That conference had some ridiculous defenses. I believe Sacramento State, Montana State all had top 15 defenses last year, top 20. So he went up against some of the best defenders in the country, still put up crazy stats. But if I had to say, I still think Abdul could have been on there. And I think you could replace either Shaq Davis or Freddie Robertson, in that spot. So I think Abdul was really my one snub there. Malachi, I do have him on my SWAC All-American list. I'll just spoil it for y'all. But for me, he barely played until the Alabama A&M game. Like, he was not on the field in some of their biggest games. And when you look at his stats, only 35 catches, Scotty, for the entire year. And so his touchdowns are there, but a lot of his touchdowns were just Shador throwing it up, and he was just bigger than the DB. And so I don't see that every down consistency in Malachi Wadman right now, which is why I didn't put him as an FCS All-American.
Now, I think for Abdul, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's the only SWAC receiver with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, the only receiver I think that went over. No. Did Malachi go over 1,000 yards?
No. Malachi only had like 500.
So Abdul is the only receiver in the SWAC that went over 1,000 yards. So I think the longevity of his career for FCS, and then also having one of the top FCS quarterbacks as well with Keel Glass does help. So I can see how he could replace a Shaq Davis or a Freddie Robertson, something like that with his consistency. Go ahead.
And on top of that, with Malachi, I have a tough time putting someone on the list that wasn't the best wide receiver for their team and wasn't even a conference All-American.
Absolutely, it's Keith Corbin.
If you can't make your conference All-American list, how are you gonna say you belong in terms of the entire country for the best wide receivers? And with Malachi, there was also the suspension that hurt him. I believe he got suspended for the Southern and the Alcorn game. Not the Southern. It was the Alcorn game. And there was one more that he was out for toward the end of the season.
I believe it was just that he got suspended for that one game, which was the
Alcorn, right? Because it was before the PV game. And the go-to is Keith Corbin. And so I just got a tough time with Malachi there. And for a duel, when I'm looking back, when I really go into like the analytics say he might even be first team, Scotty. I mean, he graded right behind Xavier Gibson with like an 86 last year in terms of like offensive grade. So I just think if Wadman put together a full season, Scotty, if he played 13 games, and I think he could have been an All-American. I'll just say that Wadman again has All-American talent. It's just he didn't have the games, man. And you gotta be on the field and be producing for your team throughout the season to get an All-American award, man.
But Blue, it goes back to what you're saying. If I'm giving you Shaq, I'm giving you Freddie, I'm giving you Jalen over 1,000, Freddie at 1,000, Shaq Davis, I believe is 900, 800, 900 yards.
900.
900 yards. I can't put you in if you only got 500 yards and 8 touchdowns. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, Malachi had the touchdowns. Malachi had 12 touchdowns, so he had more touchdowns than I think everyone. I think he had more than Davis and Robertson. But the problem is, touchdowns isn't the only stat that matters for a wide receiver.
Absolutely.
You listen, it's easy, like, because when I look at a player, let's say without watching the film, a player can have 15 receiving touchdowns, but if they're all in the red zone just on the same like trick play, like, you know what I mean, in those certain situations, but you're not doing it every down, then that's not an All-American to me. You just were put in the right situation and you were the target in the red zone. So, I don't think touchdowns should tell the whole story there.
I think you're talking about D. Anderson. I mean, you got 11, 12 touchdowns for the season, and you probably caught maybe one pass over 20 yards. You know what I'm saying? So it is no shot to D. You're a specialist. You know what I'm saying? But that doesn't account for what you will be on the All-American list. So you got to take it as it comes. All right. Running backs. I think this should be self-explanatory. I don't see why anybody should have a problem with these, but go ahead.
I will say, in terms of FCS, I think looking back, you can, there's a good argument for Isaiah Davis from South Dakota State. And, listen, as much as Jackson State fans went crazy, South Dakota State fans, I don't know if I'm allowed in South Dakota right now. So I'll put that out there. They were really mad. But for me, Isaiah Davis had an explosive spring season. But last year, he missed eight games due to injury and just came back toward the playoffs. He was averaging like 8 yards a carry. If he would have played a full season, he's first team. But I can't give you All-American if you didn't play half the season. And so the potential's there. And then the other thing is he was playing behind Pierre Strong, who was just a 4th-round pick for the New England Patriots out of South Dakota State. So he still wasn't the lead guy. And Scotty, we all know this as football analysts. Being the guy is different than being one of the guys.
Oh, absolutely.
So absolutely. I need to see him be RB1, and then we can talk. But yes, the potential's there again for Isaiah Davis to be an All-American. I just thought these 4 guys, and then of course fullback Hunter Lipke, easy pick there. No one has a fullback outside of North Dakota State, but the other 4 running backs put together full seasons and all rushed for over 1,000 yards. I mean, Malik Grant exploded. He wasn't even a starter, Scotty, going into the season. Julius Chestnut goes down with an ACL tear early in the season. He goes out and he wins NEC Offensive Player of the Year.
Woo!
Out of nowhere. The kid is amazing, man. We had him on our show. Isaiah Afonso rushed for over 1,200 yards. Darius Hell had like 16 rushing touchdowns. Jaleel McLaughlin's rushed for 1,000 yards for like 3 straight seasons. Man, it's self-explanatory if you watch FCS football. All of those guys are great. Darius Hell was a freshman last year and finished second to Shador in the Jerry Rice Award. And a lot of people thought he should have been in the running for that. And then, of course, Hunter Lipke, man, listen, with how North Dakota State uses them, there's not, I don't know if you noticed, my second team didn't have a fullback because there's not,
nobody else.
We made that position, put that on there for Hunter Lipke. That's how good he is.
Nasty. He's that nasty. I feel he's like, bro, you got it. That's it. Just you.
Exactly.
Right. Listen, you already know about this. Tight ends. Talk to me, Blue.
And listen, this is why I'm not allowed in South Dakota. I spited their guy, Isaiah Davis, and then Tucker Kraft, who a lot of FCS analysts feel like he's consensus first team. But listen, that's what got me about the whole, like, oh, this list doesn't respect HBCU players. Like, dude, I'll pull up the DMs for you guys. There are so many people messaging me that the SWAC is D2 football, so Kamari Everett's season doesn't count. Listen, Kamari Everett would be one of the best players in any conference that you put him in at the FCS level. And for him to put up almost 1,000 yards receiving, right up there for the lead in terms of receiving touchdowns. There's SWAC fans in the chat right now, Scotty, that couldn't tell you the names of the 2 quarterbacks that played for Bethune-Cookman last year. And he put up stats like that. Listen, I'm gonna say Kamari Everett, to me, like I told you this on the phone, is the best NFL draft prospect out of the SWAC next year.
Hands
Bar
down.
none. He
Hands
is
down.
Kyle Pitts 2.0. And I think now with his, whatever happened at Louisville or wherever, that's fine. But Kamari Everett at Bethune-Cookman with Jalen Jones is going to be a problem. Kamari Everett, I think, could be a first-team All-American at the end of the season. And Tucker Kraft, man, listen, blocking-wise, he's better than Kamari Everett, but listen, it's different games, and we know what it is in the MVFC. They're going to run a two tight end set, and they're going to try to run it down your throat. So Tucker Kraft, blocking, he's got it. The production in terms of receiving isn't there, but when you look at what quarterbacks he's been playing with, Mark Gronkowski, MVFC Offensive Player of the Year in the spring. He got Chris Oladuncan, multiple time starter in the FCS. The experience and consistency, along with the run game, helping Tucker Kraft out. I think Kamari Everett to put up the stats he did is remarkable. And that is why I picked him as the cover athlete too for our preseason All-American, man. He earned it because I think he had the toughest time getting on this list compared to any other player.
Man, listen, you said it so eloquently. I think there's no player right now that you would just pick out of the box and say, hey, go start on an NFL team other than Kamari Everett coming out of the SWAC right now. And you could possibly say, even FCS. Listen, I seen Kamari Everett up close and personal. I went to the Bethune and Alabama A&M game. This kid is a house. He's a walking house. Big, everything, the ball's going to him, and he's still impactful. He can take a 5-yard hitch, go 20, 30 yards for a touchdown. He can get you one-on-one. He can do the fade ball. However you want it, Kamari Everett can give it to you. And like Blue said, you can't even name the quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying? I think one was Shannon. I think one was a Shannon.
Shannon Patrick was I believe he was I don't remember which games he even started.
Jackson State. He started the Jackson State game. And then you had the black kid. I think his name was like a Chris something, but
yeah,
it's just crazy. But absolutely, I 100% agree with you on this one. All right, going up next, we got the big boys. I know this touches your heart right here, Blue. This your people. These your boys.
Listen, everyone on this list deserves it, man. I mentioned to you a lot of people came back. I mean, look at the first team, Scotty, all seniors, and the second team, I believe, is 3 seniors, a redshirt junior and a redshirt sophomore.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, that they've been at the top. That's why North Dakota State, South Dakota State have such dominant run games, man. It's the big dudes up front, man. Listen, they get these kids out in the Midwest. They've been tipping cows their whole life, squatting, fence post. Like, listen, it's just different out there. I lived in Kansas for a while. They eat different up there. All they eat steak and potatoes, and that's it. And they weigh 300 pounds and they're 6'7". That's how they make them out there. And listen, Mason McCormick and Greenfield for South Dakota State, they paved the way for Pierre Strong and the long line of great running backs that have come out of South Dakota State. North Dakota State, Cody Mock is a monster. He was the one that I don't know if you saw it, Scotty, in the national championship. He got a pancake block, ran up the field, and did a slide, and then did the first down sign. That's Cody. Yes, dude is hilarious. And listen, we know how North Dakota State builds those offensive linemen out there. Kyle Nunez, multiple times CAA All-American. He deserves it. Matt and Hatchie from UT Martin, multiple time All-American as well, paved the way for UT Martin to win the OVC last year. Well, go ahead.
Hey, give me the measurables. Hit me with some measurables, because I know people want to see. I know people want to hear how big these dudes are, and but if you just know the heights, just hit me with the heights.
Let's see, man. I don't have those off the top of my head. I ain't gonna be honest with you.
You don't have something
all the stats I gotta remember. Now I gotta remember everyone's height and weight too. Like this is, but off the top of my head, I do know everyone I think on this list is over 6'5".
Over 6'5"
or close to it, yeah.
Yeah, that's some big boys. That's a big boy. Continue on UT Martin. Go ahead.
UT Martin win the OVC, man. Listen, he's been a stud on the interior of the offensive line. Nash Jensen for North Dakota State has been a staple for that team. The Nicholls State guy, man, I think he's interesting. Really and truly, that team doesn't get a lot of attention just because the Southland's not known as a physical offensive line conference, because they air the ball out. They're very finesse type, man. That dude is a dog. Just go watch the film. That dude wants to take you out. And Luke Newman for Holy Cross, man, there's a reason that Holy Cross has drugged that conference for however long They do. And the Weaver State kid, Noah, man, another monster in the Big Sky. He's had to block multiple times. All Americans, NFL draft picks, Daniel Hardy, the list goes on and on. So all these guys have went up against top D-line talent, dominated, and are all on great offensive lines, man. Listen, you know me. I'll probably watch more film on the offensive line than anybody, any position on this list. Offensive line, I just watched it for fun, man. All these guys, shout out to them. I'm glad that offensive linemen get their shine.
Man, so you sure there's no way Tony Gray could have made this list?
Tony Gray, hang on, I got you. Tony Gray had a 55.9 blocking grade for the season, Scotty. For the worst offensive line in the SWAC, according to sacks allowed and rushing yards.
So is that a no? You get them? Oh, okay.
No. Just for perspective, the North Dakota State guy on the first team had an 88.9 blocking grade.
Woo! Yeah, my boy, you gotta get them grades up. You gotta get them grades up, okay? You talking about some man, like get your grades up. All right, next up, D lineman. Talk to us.
Listen, I mean, we'll start with Isaiah Land. We know what it is with Isaiah Land. When you win the Defensive Player of the Year award,
gotta be first
for
team.
the entire country. Listen, I didn't have to watch film. I didn't have to look up the stats. Isaiah Land was first team All-American. Titus Leo is a name I don't think a lot of people know. He's going to be on the show in a few weeks, but he has won 2 straight Defensive Player of the Year awards for his conference and is going to probably win a 3rd.
Damn.
Yeah. Stud Brevin Allen, Big South Defensive Player of the Year, led the conference in sacks, tackles for loss, was all over the field. He's going to be a problem when they come to JSU this year. So be ready. Brevin Allen is a name you need to know. You better know where number 9 is because he is going to cause problems. And Devontae Maxwell, listen, he can play nose. He can play defensive tackle. He can play edge. He's just going to make an impact, man. And I like his game. I like his physicality, man. Listen, Maxwell is looking to hurt an offensive lineman. And those are some big boys up front, and he does not care. He is not backing down from anyone. And we talked about this with Jason Dumas, Scotty. To make an impact on the interior of a defensive line is so much harder than playing edge.
Absolutely.
And I love what Maxwell brings to the game. And one of my favorite players in the FCS on the second team, Nate Lynn, one of the leading sack guys from the FCS last year. I thought he could have been first team. He was first team for Athlon because they didn't put Titus Leo on there. But for me, a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year has got to be on first team. I don't care. I understand it's Wagner and no one talks about them, but listen, Nate Lynn is that guy. He has double-digit sacks, I believe, 2 straight years now. VJ Mallow, 9.5 sacks last year, came into Portland State as a transfer from JUCO and made an immediate impact. Was a Big Sky All-American, had double-digit tackles for loss. I believe he set the newcomer record for tackles for loss for Portland State. And he can just get after it. He was on the show if you want to know more about him. Josh Silverman, again, another top leading sack leader from New Hampshire. He's only, I believe, a sophomore, and that kid's got such a bright future. I actually talked to, he knows Greenhouse, the Southern commit, the D lineman, and he messaged me and he was like, I'm just going to let you know Silver's going to be on first team at the end of the year. He's that guy. And then of course Dumas. Do we need to say anything about Dumas, man? I could not have this list of defensive linemen without Jason Dumas. To me, the most dominant player in the SWAC coming into next year, and I don't think it's even close. And to pair him with Jordan Lewis and Greenhouse and Trey Lang and all those guys, man, he's going to be a problem because you aren't going to be able to double team him like you were at PV.
All right, you got a question over here. The boy from Campbell over the DN from North Dakota State and Kennesaw.
I believe the DN he's talking about from Kennesaw graduated. If it's the one I'm thinking of, I post his name, T. But I think the one you're talking about graduated or transferred. But the one from North Dakota State, man, he missed like the whole season. I believe he's talking about Spencer Wagee. Listen, I love Spencer, but he missed like the entire second half of the season. He's coming off of Achilles or ACL injury, so I'm not taking that risk, man. Listen, he's a great player, possibly on my MVFC All-American team, but he's not FCS based on production last year.
Got it. Anybody that is an honorable mention that you could have, because somebody said South Carolina State, so you probably talking about Jablonski Green. But anybody else from any FCS conference that you like be out for?
Jablonski probably would be on my 3rd team if I had one. or he's going to be a MEAC All-American. He's that guy. Looking at it from honorable mentions, man. Not off the top of my head, man. Listen, 2 teams for preseasons kind of is already tough enough. Maybe Terrell Allen from Tennessee State, a defensive tackle that they landed from Austin. He transferred in from Austin P. If you're looking for another HBCU player who I think has the potential to make it, is Gentle Hunt. I really like what Gentle Hunt's bringing over there at FAMU, and there's a lot of young guys. So I know people who follow the FCS know Montana State and Montana lost a lot of talent on the defensive line, as did North Dakota State. There's some young guys who I think potentially can make it at the end of the season, but these 8 guys right here did it last year at a high level all season long. And the film, the stats don't lie, man. These are probably the 8 best defensive linemen in the country right now.
That's dope, man. You heard it here from Blue. Let's go. Next up. DBs. This had a lot of pushback. Talk to me.
Listen, these are, I mean, really and truly the 8 best defensive backs. I think when you're arguing, you can maybe argue second team if you're looking for a player or 2 here or there, but the first team's locked. Those 4 guys are the best 4 defensive backs in FCS football, man. When you look at Justin Ford, Scotty, man, listen, I got the stats here because I don't think people understand how good Justin Ford is, because I got yelled at because I said Justin Ford is on par with Nugget as an NFL prospect.
Got you.
I think he is right there as the best. Arguably, you can make an argument, Scotty, that Justin Ford is the best FCS draft prospect going into next year. Last year, 9 interceptions, Scotty, 20 pass breakups, 3 defensive touchdowns, and he had a streak of 12 games where he either had an interception or a defensive touchdown last season.
Listen, if you're not watching FCS football, shut up. Okay, people just out here talking. If you're not watching Montana play, you don't know about your boy Justin Ford. Talk to him, Blue.
Listen, man, that he, in my opinion, production wise, best FCS defensive back, and really and truly, Scotty, I'd have him in the top 10 in entire country. He travels. He can play in the box. I mean, listen, Scotty, you can play him at corner. You can play him in slot. You can play him at the safety spot. It doesn't matter. Justin Forrest is out there to make plays. Really and truly. I mean, and Scotty, for a guy who was thrown at a lot with 20 pass breakups and 9 interceptions, I don't know. I don't know how you argue that, man. Listen, you can argue if a guy has 3 interceptions that he lucked into those interceptions. You don't get 20 pass breakups and 9 picks by just lucking into it. You got to be playing real football, man. And then Whitehead. Listen,
hold on, Blue, before you go. So people saying 9 interceptions. Why do they keep trying him?
Okay, so in my interview with him, this is what he told me, Scotty. I asked him if he trash talked. He said he trash talks the other coach to force them to throw at him when he's on their side. He said, I want to get in their head so bad that they want to test me just so I can show them that they probably shouldn't test me again. And he goes, it's just a cycle.
Yo, I love it. I love it. Shout out to you, Justin. Hey, that's a real one. That's a real one. I love it. I love it. Keep going, Blue.
The best answer of all time I think I've ever had to that question. He said, I want the coach to hear me on game day. But man, listen, Whitehead, this guy is, I believe, a 4-time FCS All-American now, Scotty.
Whoa.
Yeah, listen, Kedrick Whitehead is that guy for Delaware. He was an intricate piece when they made the run almost to the national championship in the spring. I mean, last year, 75 tackles, 8 pass breakups, graded almost an 80 in coverage. He plays in between safety and corner. They kind of rotate him around just based on what they need. Because when you have a guy who's played 5 years, Scotty, that's your leader.
Yeah.
If you got a guy in the slot that's causing you problems, Whitehead, go get him. You got a guy on the outside causing you problems. Number 1, that's yours. And so he's just that guy for them. And for me, when you're a 4-time All-American, and on top of that, you have like 200-something career tackles, and you've been an All-CAA selection for your entire career, I don't see how you argue against him being on the list. Tutsi from North Dakota State, he's my real safety pick. He strictly plays safety. He can play in the box. He can play deep safety. 81 tackles, a pick, 4 pass breakups, a 75+ coverage grade. When you watch North Dakota State football, you're going to see 25 around the football. That's just how it is. No matter where the ball's going, he's almost he plays more like their Marquise Bell, if that makes sense, Scotty.
Okay, that makes sense.
He's their Marquise Bell, where he's a 5th-year guy and he knows everything. He encompasses the North Dakota State culture up there. Listen, man, he was a first team All-American at the end of last season, and it's hard to deny those guys preseason first team bids after they just proved it on the field. And then Anthony Adams is a guy a lot of people probably don't know, Scotty. 3 interceptions, 5 tackles for loss, 52 tackles, 5 pass breakups, 3 fumble recoveries, and a 70 coverage grade. Listen, he's the only guy on Portland State. That secondary does not have many guys. He's the guy who travels. I mean, he does. If you got a guy on the field, Anthony Adams is the guy who's going to go lock him up, and his stats show it. And all these guys, for me, have multiple aspects of their game that they contributed. They all had tackles. They could tackle in the open field. They can get down the box and do that. They can all cover. They all make plays. And I get it. If you're a really good corner, you're going to shut down side field and you're not going to get many targets. But good players still find a way to make plays.
Absolutely.
And all 4 of those guys have done it for years. All of them are seniors, and they've been multiple-time All-Americans. And the guy who I almost had first team, but when you look at him, it's hard to put him up there, Zy Alexander.
Hey,
Southeastern.
Man, listen, if I don't know about a lot of people for FCS, but that boy, when I was watching him for the FAMU game, he is a looker. He's a cluer. He's like a Marcus Peters type of. Listen, he gambles a lot, but he is explosive, and he's
right a lot too.
Man.
I mean, listen, 6 interceptions and 7 pass breakups last year as a freshman.
He's different,
and on top of that, he plays in a conference where DBs usually don't look good because you have Cameron Wards, you got Cole Kellys, you got Lindsey Scotts, you have the Southland is such a air raid type, I guess, conference as a whole. So it's hard for DBs to put up good stats. And listen, Zy Alexander earned it, man. I really like him. I think he's a guy who could be first team All-American next season. And I think he got docked because he's young, and it might have been a 1 year. And it's hard to put him over 4 seniors who have done it for 4 years in a row at the highest level. I see the comment, are these homegrown players? Justin Ford's a transfer from the FBS level. Anthony Adams, Whitehead, and Tutsi are all homegrown, I believe, though. And so is Zy Alexander. Robbie Hawk, though, man, listen, he's another safety I put up here. 128 tackles last year, Scotty.
Whoa! Is this the white boy? This the white boy bottom?
Number 17.
Oh my God.
128 tackles, 7 for loss, 2 pass breakups, 3 forced fumbles. Listen, you got to put safeties. Everyone can't be a corner. He's that true safety. Come on, man. 128 tackles. You don't belong on the.
That's linebacker numbers. Like,
exactly.
What are we talking about right now? You're talking about safety with linebacker numbers.
And he still put up a decent. He still put up a good coverage grade. I mean, he put up a coverage grade that was equal to Nuggets.
Wow. With more tackles.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And the last one, man, listen, BJ Bowler. I don't understand why people don't think he should be on there. Did you watch the film? Did you look at I mean, listen, Bowler, 52 tackles at a corner spot, 4.5 for loss, 4 picks, 12 pass breakups, and had an 82 coverage grade. He had the highest coverage grade out of anyone on the list.
Listen, the only argument is the Jackson State game. That's the only argument if you want to talk about a bad game. But even I had to give him credit because the kid ran the table after the Jackson State game. You can't find a bad tape. Even in the game, if you want to talk about Southeast Louisiana, it wasn't all on him. They got fake plays, fake punts, fake touchdowns, runs, all type of stuff. So if you want to go game for game, nobody was more consistent than BJ Bowler at the corner position. You just can't name it. I don't care. Like, go ahead, Blue.
In terms of production, he was the best defensive back in the SWAC last year.
That's why he was on first team. That's exactly what. See, once again, guys, you can't, just because you have talent does not make you an All-American. It has to be combined with the tape and with the production of it. All right. So at the end of the day, BJ Bowler is gonna show up and he's gonna show out, and his tape says the same thing. You can't deny it when the tape says it as well.
And he shined in a secondary where people thought he might have been the 3rd or 4th option. He shined over Marquise Bell. He shined over Antoine Collier. And I believe his brother is a corner too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He is his younger brother.
And I mean, listen, and he's not that big. He's like 5'9",
Yeah, he's like 5.
and he is
I saw him in person.
still
Little. Yeah, he's a little guy.
yeah, he's still making plays, man. And so, listen, I get it, and I know people want to say Nugget. I got his stats here, Scotty. Nugget had 22 total tackles and 1 pass breakup last year.
Yeah, that's not it. That's not it. That's not gonna get it done.
I mean, listen, I get it. And when Mr. Moore is commenting on Scotty's video saying that, yeah, listen, you know, he don't believe his own son should be an All-American, and he said Nugget doesn't either. And so for people to say like, oh, the list is invalid because you know, it doesn't have Nugget, like, listen, man, if I was basing it off, listen, there's a reason why there's NFL prospect lists and there's All-American lists
Mm-hmm.
because NFL measurables and NFL, I would say, like projections are different than production on the field in college because there's a lot of great college players, Scotty, that aren't in the NFL. Eric Berrier is not playing NFL football right now.
Yeah.
Are we going to say that he didn't deserve to be an All-American?
Yeah, Cole Kelly, same thing.
Yeah, Cole. So are we saying right now, like let's just predict, let's say whoever you want, like who do you want to say? Like let's say, oh my lord, I'm trying to think of a quarterback last year who the kid from who transferred to Western Kentucky last year. So he got drafted. Are we going to say that Cole, like when he was playing at Houston Baptist, he should have been an All-American over Eric Berrier? I mean, did he outperform Eric Berrier on the field? I mean, listen, you've still got to have the production and the stats to back it up. And then on top of it with Nugget, the thing is, even I don't know exactly what happened off the field, and I'm not going to speculate on it. And I don't know, and I'm not going to say I do know, but the fact remains he played less than 500 total snaps the entire year. And for me, the best ability is availability.
Absolutely.
And so if you're not on the field making plays and you're not on the field helping your team win the game, then all that talent is pointless at the end of the day. So like, listen, you still got to perform on the field if you want to be an All-American. And for everyone saying that, oh man, and I get it, Scotty, and I want fans to be fans and listen, ride for your team, man. I love it. The passion for Jackson State fans rivals any school in the country, and that's insane. But to say I need you to, I gotta have some facts to back it up, man. Listen, at least like have a real snub. Like I forgot, I think it was Serve that hit me up and was like, bro, Duel should have made the list. And I went back and looked, I was like, yeah, you're probably right. But I mean, listen, natural, your favorite player, if your Maddie's not on the list, you gotta tell your favorite player to perform better on Saturdays. That's just how it goes.
That's what it is. Perform better on the day of. All right. Don't show up late. Don't show up, but not at all. Go up there and stand up and stand out. All right, let's get it. Linebackers.
Patrick O'Connell finished second to Isaiah Land for the Buck Buchanan, or finished third in the Buck Buchanan Award race. Listen, if you're top 3 in the country last year, got to be a first-team All-American. Jacob Dobbs and Stone Snyder are just playmakers, bro. They're just going to make a tackle. I believe all 3 of them had over 100 tackles last year. And we're just all over the field. And Stone Snyder is an interesting case. He's that type of guy who you can put at Mike and you can put at edge. And so therefore he can be a pass rusher in certain situations. So therefore he's never a liability on the field. And so that's a big plus for him. I really like all 3 of these guys. Listen, they're all seniors, all have been FCS All-Americans for the past few years. It just is what it is. Ryan Greenhagen, the same. A lot of people thought he potentially should have been on first team. I believe he had a game where he had like 25 tackles against somebody this year. I mean, just went berserk. But listen, one team can't get you on the All-American list. Jaquan Grimes was a first-team All-American in the Big South. Last year, I believe he got injured right at the end of the year. But all year from spring to fall season, man, he was just out there, man, making plays. And he's that type of middle linebacker that runs the entire defense. He's a 5th-year guy. And when you look at Monmouth next year, you're going to have to look out for Daquan Grimes because he is a headhunter. And that's the same thing you get with Aubrey Miller, man. Let's just be honest. It was arguably the best linebacker, one of the best linebackers in the SWAC last year anyway. And he really and truly doesn't get enough credit for what he does for Jackson State's defense. Really, and I think when you look at it, taking Aubrey Miller out of the game would have been a bigger loss than taking anybody else out of Jackson State's defense going into next season. He is that important to them because he gets everyone lined up. He knows what Dion wants out there. And so I think Aubrey Miller, in terms of a leadership aspect, is huge for him as well. And on top of that, he goes out there and balls, man. I mean, when you look at it, if they didn't have Aubrey Miller last year, they would have been in some serious trouble, because I don't know if Keontae could have replaced what Aubrey Miller brought.
That I have to disagree with. That I don't think, if we're talking about last year, I think Keontae is more valuable than Aubrey because of how versatile Keontae is. Aubrey is a headhunter. He's a downhill player, but to catch him in space and things like that, I don't think he can guard a tight end. I don't think he can guard a running back out the backfield. There's things I think that limit him. But if you're talking about A to B, downhill, hitting it 100 miles per hour, you do not want to see 45 in the hole. Point blank.
He's going to hurt you if he catches you one-on-one.
Listen, I've dapped up Aubrey. He's a
big dude, man. Like, he doesn't come off that big.
Man, he's a big dude, man. He's a big dude. So I think he's a typical 1999, 1990 linebacker. Anything between the tackles, I will demolish you. Anything outside of tackles, I think that's where he gets limited at. But other than that, you're absolutely right. I think he's definitely a beast. Now, I got people asking about Jacob Roberts from A&T.
He would have been on third team.
Okay.
He would have been on third team. But when you look at all these guys, man, I mean, the linebacker was tough because there was a lot of young guys coming up that potentially could have done it. But you got, 6 seniors on this list that have done it over and over and over, and they're right there with it. So it's hard to replace anybody on this list. But Roberts would have been on my third team if I would have done one. But he's really talented too, man. I think when you watch Roberts next season, I think if A&T wins the Big South, man, he's going to be a big part of that defense.
And I do agree with you, Black Pilot. I don't think nobody would want to be hit by any of these guys, honestly, but definitely not by Aubrey Miller.
No, and I wanted to expand too. I was more talking about he's their Mike. I don't think Keontae could have played a Mike position.
He won Defensive Player of the Year in the SWAC he played. He was the Mike. I think the thing. Okay, so the thing that's where I think the scheme fits Aubrey really well.
I think that's where we're different, because I just think with his size and physicality, he's a better Mike. Because I think Keontae was more finesse, in my opinion.
I think he's so if you're blitzing a lot, 5-6 man blitzes, and Aubrey Miller is usually your headhunter when it comes to blitzing, because he's gonna just run over whoever's in front of him, linemen, running backs or whatever. You're absolutely right. I think Keontae is more of a finesse linebacker, more read and react type. But it all depends on the scheme that you run. If you're running a downhill scheme like Jackson State likes to run, I get why you're using Aubrey. He's your hammer. He's just going to knock whatever else out the way. But if you're running a FAMU style where it's a base, you're not sending a lot of pressure. You want a Keontae because he reads, reacts, he can get down, he's slim, he gets skinny in the hole. So it all depends on what you're seeing for your defense. But for what Jackson State likes to do, Aubrey Miller is the perfect hammer to any situation for what they got going on. Absolutely.
And no, Aubrey is not 6'3", whoever put that in the chat.
Nah,
I've seen him he is not 6'3".
Yeah, he's like 6 foot 6'1".
Yeah.
So yeah, he's not that tall.
I saw that and I was like, I don't think that's the case.
Exactly. Let me see. And last but not least, special team.
Listen, I mean, the special teams last year stayed the same from the All-American list last year, man. Max Quick, Jose Pisano, Matthew Cook, Grant Burkett, man. Listen, consensus special teams All-American last year. I kept that the same, man. The kickers, man, are efficient. I'll put it like that. They do not miss often, and if they do, it's from very long range. They do great on kickoffs too, a bunch of touchbacks, and both the punters, I believe, both averaged over 45-yard averages last season. So I like what they're doing there. And then the return specialist. Listen, was there any debate?
Oh no, not even close.
Listen, Isaiah Bolden led the country in return average and was electric for Jackson State, and really and truly set that offense up in very good positions at times. And then Malik Flowers was right behind him in the return game. Malik Flowers was one of the best returners in the Big Sky, had multiple returns for touchdown last year. So I think the special teams list for me, man, was probably the easiest one I put together, to be honest with you, because I mean, everyone who deserved it everyone who was an All-American last year came back, and so that was the easiest. That was probably the easiest one for me, honestly, because I thought all these guys are probably going to be consensus All-Americans across me, Hero Sports, and Athlon Sports.
Absolutely. My question to you, Blue, is what what does it when it comes to return specialist, does it have to, is it all about yards? Is it all about return average? Is it about touchdowns, explosiveness? What are you looking for when you're looking at your All-American list? I mean, Isaiah Bowden, self-explanatory, he got like touchdowns on top of, but what do you, if neither one of these guys had touchdowns, what are you looking for?
I would say touchdown and return averages are probably like the two that are the most important, like especially in also the situation you get your return in. If it's like that Devin Hester Super Bowl, like you've returned the opening kickoff of the Super Bowl, that counts for a lot. That's deadly. But for me, I think it's a little combination of all and also opportunities as well, because it's kind of hard to analyze return specialists because after you return a kick or a punt, they really kind of start getting rid of you at that point. And it's also I value punt returns a little bit more than I do kick returns. I feel like punt returns are a lot harder to get loose on than kick returns.
Oh wow,
in my opinion, because when you look at the punt return, man, because sometimes you don't get that much space. If the punter kicks it 40 yards, like you better be going, and they got gunners coming on you, and you're blocking, and all your blockers aren't spread out across the field like in a kickoff. You got lines of blockers on a kickoff, and so therefore you can kind of where the hole is going to be most of the time. On punt return, man, that is all hell breaking loose. Listen, shout out to all punt returners because that's not for me. I'm an offensive lineman. Do not come running at me full speed with the ball in the air. I'm calling fair catch every time. I don't want none of that smoke.
Oh man, shout out to Deputy Mario. He said Trey from UAPB is probably going to be on the All-American kicker at UAPB. Possibly. He's definitely got a big leg. You got any call? I got some callers on my line. You got any callers on your line, Blue?
Mm-mm.
All right, let's take one for me. I'm going anonymous first. Hey, caller, you live, talk to me.
No, it's your boy Smoke, man.
What's up, Smoke? Talk to me.
I got a question. I hope it's not a rhetorical question, but I really got a question.
All right.
If you're Dion going into the season, and I just saw you guys mention Isaiah Bowden. I think he was second team or first team for special.
First team return specialist.
Perfect. Now we know Kevin Coleman is pretty fast. Travis Hunter, of course, is no worries for that. But if you're Dion, who's going to be your go-to man for special teams when it comes to kickoff return and punt return? Are you going to go Zay Bowden, Travis Hunter, or Kevin Coleman?
If it was me, I'm going to take mine. And then also I got a text from a FAMU. They said you forgot about Shareed Blue from FAMU. He averaged 20 yards on punt return. I think he had like two. I think he had 2 touchdowns for a punt return, anything like that. But
he was my next pick. He was on third team. I have my third team. I just didn't release that.
Got you. All right. So if I was going first, back to you, Smoke, I think I would go Zay as kick return and Kevin Coleman as punt return. Isaiah Bowden as a punt returner, I think that requires a lot more hips, right? Like the Warren Newman, real shifty type. I think with Zay, Zay is a more of a track guy, like a straight line speed. If he sees it and he gets
once he finds a hole,
it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Yeah, it's a wrap. So that's how I would do it. I would go with my shifty guy for my punt return, and then I would go for my straight line speed guy for my kick return. What you got, Blue?
Yeah, I got Zay on kick return. Listen, I don't think they want, I agree with the comments. I don't think they want to risk Travis because he's already going to be playing defense, probably offense a little bit as well. While the more opportunities you put him out there, man, especially as a true freshman, the more opportunities you have to. And what are Jack State fans going to say if he gets hurt on a kick return? Out of all things. So I don't think they're going to risk him. I think Zay's proven that he can be the kick returner. I do agree with Scotty. I think it's either going to be Coleman or Willie Gaines at the punt return spot because Willie Gaines also has some experience doing that too. I think you get one of your slot guys at punt return because those are the type of guys that know when they get the ball in their hand, they know how to make plays in open space, recuts, and they're just those quick guys. So I think Willie Gaines or Kevin Coleman will probably be your punt return.
Okay, no different. Well, thank you. I'm keep watching the show, man.
I appreciate the call, Smoke. Hey, Dre, I'm coming to you, then Coach Green. Hey, Dre, you live.
Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? I got a question about y'all DBs. What do you find, I guess, I don't want to say more valuable, but what's a little bit more, what would you rather have? A corner that doesn't get tested, where they don't even want to throw his way, or you want somebody that they're gonna throw at, but he may give up some catches, but there's no yak yards. So I'm getting that.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Blue,
because
go ahead.
I'm thinking like, okay, you got somebody where no one's Dion, but let's say a corner where they don't even look that way. That's different than, okay, we'll try you, because obviously, if you get tried a couple of times, you're gonna pick off some. Whether then, I'm not even throwing Scotty's way. I'm not even gonna look his way. Scotty just gonna have an easy day every time he come up on the field. So,
okay. I would say for all the American, it's tough because, I always try to have like 2 safeties and 2 corners. For the safeties, I don't think the coverage plays as much of a role. I'm looking for a guy who's going to get in the box and make plays, and then when he's in coverage, can hold his own. So I think what you're looking for in a safety is a bit different. But when you're looking at corners, I think yes, you can respect sometimes when teams won't even look their way, but at the same time, I can't give you an All-American award just because people aren't throwing at you. Because some of those plays, if they're not throwing at you, your guy might not be as covered as you think, but the quarterback's already looking another way, so they never even check. And so I don't know if that counts as much. But listen, Justin Ford didn't get thrown at a lot, but when he got thrown at, he made plays. And it's hard to evaluate that necessarily because of schemes too. If you're a zone corner, a man corner, where is your head coach putting you? Are you playing a lot of time in the slot? Are they putting you on the best wide receiver? Did the quarterback have an off day when you played? Because what happens if the quarterback just doesn't have a good day and he's missing throws? You might be getting beat all day, but if he's not hitting those passes, they don't show up in the stat box.
You don't hurt, yeah.
And so I think DBs are the hardest position group to look at, which is why I think that's probably the position you have to encompass everything in terms of looking, from stats to analytics to film. You have to combine all those to find the 4 best defensive backs, because the variability week to week is so much, because that position is affected so much by who you play, if your star corner on the other side's hurt, you might have to play a whole different role that next week, and that might not suit your game. So I think safeties are a little bit easier because you can look at tackles, you can look at how many plays are in coverage, how many plays are in the box. But with corners, man, that is extremely hard. But I got to respect a guy who goes out there, and if he has 9 interceptions on the year, if they're not throwing at you, bro, I'm sorry. The kid with 9 interceptions gets the All-American award. That's just how it goes.
All right, so for me, I kind of play like that, but just a little differently. When I look at DBs, the first thing I look at is technique. You know what I'm saying? Like how you're playing your technique. And I think what always stood out to me about Nugget is how seamlessly he can turn and run with you without having to touch you. I thought that was a skill that you don't see with a lot of DBs. When I'm also breaking down DBs, I'm also seeing, okay, how aggressive are you? Are you a holder? Are you aggressive? Are you playing in space? Are you playing man? Because to get not thrown at, you have to prove to not throw at me. You get what I'm saying? Like there has to be something that I've seen on film or tape to be like, I'm not going his way, because why do I have to when I got other people I can target? And I think when it comes to the SWAC in general, it's just the quarterback play. It's so hard because there's a lot of quarterbacks that you're just like, you don't feel comfortable enough to make that throw. It's there. It's there, but you don't feel comfortable. But with me, with DBs, I look at technique. I look at the scheme they play in. That's why the Dimitri thing was so big for me. I'm like, what scheme did he play in? Did he play in the zone? Did he play man a lot? Because there are certain things that, some corners feel comfortable, like Jalen Ramsey. He feels comfortable in man. You don't want to put a guy who feels comfortable in man in zone. That's not his.
Richard Sherman's
is a zone corner. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't feel comfortable in man. Even if he travels, he's still in zone. You know what I'm saying? So it's those aspects. But what I would take is I'll take a guy who's a game changer. Like Trayvon Diggs. That's a good example. He got 11 picks. Yep. I'll take a guy who got 11 picks and got 1,000 yards on him. You got 11 picks. You know what I'm saying? Like that changes the game. So, you got people who don't get thrown at, and you got people who do. I get it. It goes both ways, but it's your preference. I like game changers. I like people who can give me the ball on extra occasions. So that's just me.
I just want to see, just want to get your opinion on it. Obviously, there's obviously a lot of different ways to do corners. So I saw the list and a lot of, so just want to get y'all have some good points. So,
hey, appreciate the call though, Dre. You got anybody on your side, Blue?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I think everyone's calling the number on the screen, so we can just roll with that.
My bad. Okay. Let me go, Coach Green. Coach Green, don't be on here for a long time, bro. We got a lot of people calling in. Don't be on no foolishness. All right, go ahead, Coach Green. You live.
Why you always do me like that?
Because you be on some, you be talking forever, man. People, we getting callers today.
Hey, I've been doing this short lately, man.
I just want to make sure we were clear. That's all. Because we simulcasting, so blues people, they're not used to you. Blues people.
Oh, no, he called in 4 times my last live show.
hey, everybody was texting in the comments. I said, you know what? I'm gonna call. Nobody want to call. I'm gonna call. They want to talk in the comments and everything.
Yeah, they want to be on IG. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, scared to call. Don't be scared to call, man. This is Blue. When Blue on, y'all call Blue like y'all call Scotty. These are 2 people I respect, and Scotty is the only one I get mad at, but we be buddies later on.
Too easy, always.
But anyway, I got one thing. Hey, you know what? These lists, I'm glad you're not afraid to take the smoke, Blue, because at the end of the day, people gonna disagree with lists anyway. That's the nature of it. But anyway, they got one thing I disagree with. I don't think the quarterback from KSU should be first team.
That's fair. I mean, I said that at the beginning. I mean, there's people who don't think he should be in quarterback. But my thing is unless you make up an all-purpose position, are you saying that he's not a top 4 player at his position right now? Because he's a quarterback.
Oh no, I'm not taking that away from him, but I don't think he's first team though.
Who would you replace him with?
Who I replace him with? I'll put Miami quarterback ahead of him. Either Miami quarterback or Shador. Either one.
Okay.
I mean that's fair. I mean, for me, I like looking at it is one, he had as big of an impact on his team as any of the 4, and maybe even more. Because I mean, listen, there's a lot of teams who run the triple option. For him to rush for 23 touchdowns is mind blowing for a quarterback from that position, and then he threw for 15 and over 1,000 yards, and he had way less attempts than any other quarterback. So for me, I think his impact and the totality of his game earned him that spot, in my opinion. But I get it. A lot of people don't like it because he's not a
traditional,
a prototypical quarterback. I get that, and that's fine with me. I mean, that's nitpicking, but I mean, for me, I just didn't feel like it was fair to have to slip him into some made-up category called all-purpose or something like that, because I feel like he earned an All-American award as a quarterback.
Yeah, you did the right thing, but in my opinion, I agree. He's set. This is the only thing I say. I feel like he's second team, not first team. That's the way I feel about it.
That's cool with me. That's a valid critique.
Everything you get, he's getting.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, I told Blue when I was driving, I said I wouldn't have had him on my first team because I don't like that style. You know what I'm saying? Like that doesn't, that wouldn't have been the style that I ran. I wouldn't have ran a triple option, so I don't want a triple option quarterback. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, Blue's just looking at it in totality of like production. Like, yo, you killed it, so I'm gonna put you first team. Me, if I was doing it, I'm like, I don't like triple option guys, so I'm gonna put Shador, I'm gonna put Tony, whoever else in that position because I just like that's the style that I like. You know what I'm saying? But that is how you break it down.
Again, the other thing because the other thing I'm looking at, because I look at all these quarterbacks, and I watch these other FCS games from time to time, and I look, can this quarterback win me a game? Can he win me a game?
Kennesaw went 11-1 last year.
Say that again?
I said Kennesaw went 11-1, and then in the second round of the playoffs, lost by 1 point.
Oh man,
it happens. It happens.
I mean, he had just as many wins as Shador.
So
and he had more wins than Jason Shelley and Tony Muskett.
True.
He won a lot of games. He's gonna win a lot of games this year. They're gonna win the ASUN in their first year too.
I ain't gonna necessarily say he could win it. It's the they offense because the way triple options operate.
A quarterback is the staple of a triple option.
Listen,
but I'm like 2 minute warning. 2 minute warning. Can he go down and win?
Yes, they did. They've done it. And the good part about Kennesaw State is they didn't have many 2-minute drills because they were smacking people. And like, listen,
right, they were smacking folks.
You can't say that he can't win you a game when he won more games than anyone else on the list. And then two, on top of that, take him and replace him with any other triple option quarterback, and they're not 11-1. That's why the Citadel has sucked for like 25 years. The Citadel has not had a winning season in a minute. And there's a reason why Georgia Southern, when Georgia Southern had the triple option, they weren't winning national championships. That's the reason why Georgia Tech wasn't winning the national championship. So I don't think that's a valid critique. And if you go watch their games, there was plenty of times where he came in the clutch and he went and made plays.
I appreciate the call, Coach Green. I got 34 sophomore Blue. He says, Blue, you taking Shedeur over Braylon Smith from UCA.
I thought Braylon Smith transferred, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Braylon Smith transferred, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I would probably take him over Breland right now just because Breland lost all his targets. The leading, I remember when we were previewing the UAB game or the UAPB game, Scotty, Tyler Hudson went to Louisville, who I thought was the best wide receiver in the FCS before Gibson. He left for Louisville, and then the other one went to the NFL. Central Arkansas had a massive loss of transfer, so I think right now I probably won't put him over Shedeur. I would say Shedeur right now, if I rank quarterbacks, would probably be 3 or 4 for me.
You know what's crazy? I just saw this clip of Adrian Peterson. Probably like I just saw a clip of him not too long ago from Georgia Southern. I mean, he was just running over everybody. It's just unreal. All right, we going Rodney McGee. Then we're going to go 1027 and JB. We're going to get you on the third end. All right. So McGee, I'm coming to you. Hey, caller, you loud. Talk to me.
Scotty, how the hell you know my name, man? I never told you my name.
Caller ID, baby.
I didn't want to give out my government, but
my bad.
No, Blue, I tweeted you the other day, and I told you I like your list. It's a good list, mainly because I respect your opinion on FCS because you watch all of FCS football, and I maybe watch, I watch all the SWAC, all the MEAC, and maybe a few, like top teams like the North Dakotas and all those guys. But one thing I will ask you is when you guys are talking about Nugget. Now, I don't think he deserved to be on the preseason list at the end of the year because he only played 8 games, 22 tackles, 1 pass breakup, like you said. But I will ask you for a preseason, and I'm asking you this, Blue, just to kind of get you critically thinking here. What in a preseason projection poll or preseason All-American team goes into projection? Like you're looking at a group of players, and you're saying, okay, this guy had a year last year where he missed a few games, he got suspended, and he couldn't ever get his footing right. But this year, I project that this guy is going to ball out and have a hell of a year. Because the reason I'm asking is because what do you want? Let's say if you have 35 players on your All-American teams, and let's say at the end of the year, when they announce the All-American teams at the end of the year, 27 of your 35 players actually made the end of the year team. That's kind of what you're looking for, correct? And I get that you're looking at statistics and all that. And when you look at a guy like Nugget, you got to look at impact to the team as far as him shutting down one side of the field and opportunities he's getting versus a guy with 8 picks. I'll give you an example, and I use Dion, the greatest corner ever lived. In 1999, he made the All-Pro team and the Pro Bowl as a first-teamer. He only had 3 picks and 6 pass breakups the whole year, but his opportunities was far less than the other corners who had more picks and more pass breakups. And those are the kind of things that I think you should look at. Just my opinion. When you look at these, what did you take into consideration there, Blue?
Hold on. I'm gonna let Blue answer the back end. Do not ever call in here and talk about the best. You're talking about the best of the best. You're talking about NFL quarterback and NFL OCs did not want to challenge Deion Sanders. That is not the same as in the SWAC cases. So please do not.
I'm not saying it's the same, but that is an example that
horrible example.
That's the one I forgot.
Horrible example.
That's an example that I want to use.
Horrible example.
It's not a horrible example.
It is absolutely.
It's not a horrible
if
example
you wanted to use,
I'm asking him if he, Scotty, I'm asking him if he watched film on Nugget, how many opportunities did Nugget get where teams really not throwing his way? And I'm saying, is that I'm asking him. I'm not saying that he should compare him to Dion as if he's Dion.
Go ahead,
I'm just using that example because if he had the same situation, that's all I'm saying.
The problem is Dion was playing full seasons of football, so we had a bigger sample size of teams staying away from him. Really and truly, there were only a handful of games that Nugget played a majority of the coverage snaps throughout the entire game. So for me, if he's not on the field a lot, how can I compare his targets to a guy who played 300 more coverage snaps than him in a season? They're not comparable. So I need Nugget.
In Blue, you're absolutely right. That's all I was asking you. And I agree with you 100%. And Scotty, that's what I was asking. I was using Dion as an example to ask him a question. Blue, you did your homework. You answered the question. I don't have anything to say. I agree with you 100%, dude.
Appreciate you, man.
You did your homework. You covered the bases. That's all I had.
That's not what you were saying. That's not what, bro. Listen, I listen very well. Okay, listen. If there's one thing I do, I listen. You said you went. First of all, you made like two or three different points. You was like, Blue, your whole point of the season is the preseason is to have everybody from your preseason list to make the All-American list. I was about to break that down because you have to factor in injuries and stats and changing of guards and changing the quarterbacks and changing the schemes and coaches, Blue, all that type of stuff. All right, then you go to the next one, and then you're talking about Nugget and how you want to project and how you project players. Well, I thought you was going to use the example of a Travis Hunter. Okay, he's new, but you're projecting him to be a preseason All-American. Hopefully, he becomes an All-American. I thought that's where you were going to go. You didn't do that. And then the next thing you ended with is, oh, I think Nugget is kind of like Dion because he doesn't get a lot of attempts and thrown his way. Well, that's not a great example because the only thing, if like Blue said at the end, so yes, Blue did answer your question, but you had like multiple facets of the question. You were just jumping from one point to another, and then Blue answered the last aspect of it. It's like, bro, you're not on the field, so how can I compare your stats to somebody who's been on the field twice as much as you? And you, what would have been? No, I'm not going to get to it. But yeah, that was my point. But anyway, 1027 and then JB. Hey, caller, you live. Talk to me.
Hey, Scotty. Great show. I was just calling to see. Do you think that Kamari Everett will be here at the end of the season, knowing Lord knows who is going to be throwing the ball to him? And how draftable do you think Kamari Everett is stacked up against other FCS prospects? That's for Blue. But love the show.
Hey, appreciate it. Go ahead, Blue.
I mean, I think Jalen Jones is a improvement in my opinion over what they had last year. So I don't think he's going to have a little bit better. And also on top of that, I think they're going to have to take, and me and Scotty talked about this earlier, they're going to have to take an extra defender to spy on Jalen Jones too. Let him take off and find out. Listen, it's going to be a problem if he gets loose in the open field. So, and on top of that, I believe Corey Reed's there as well, which is a way better receiving target outside of Kamari Everett. So therefore he'll take a defender. And then also they return their leading rusher as well. So they'll have a little bit of balance to their offense. I think Kamari Everett's year this year should be better than last year, in my opinion. But looking at it with the way the game is going, they want tight ends to be a receiver before a blocker. Most teams. I mean, there's like some teams like the New England Patriots, probably not, but most teams want a pass catching tight end like a Kyle Pitts now, like a Darren Waller would be another good example. And that's what Kamari Everett is. For me, I think he is the top tight end in this next NFL draft class from the FCS. Tucker Kraft is right there. And I think it just depends on which team, whose scheme they each fit, because they're so different players. Take a chance on him first. But Kamari Everett to me is a bona fide NFL prospect and an absolute stud. So I think even with bad quarterback play, he's that type of player that's still going to shine.
Listen, and I think Paris hit it right on the head because listen, it's funny you said this, Paris. That's the exact same thing I brought up with Blue on the phone. I was like, can they block? Can you find a 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" guy at a private institution that's also an HBCU? That's the issue. Listen, it all comes down to Jalen Jones. And and this, if you really want to get to the weeds of it, it's actually more pressure on Jalen than Kamari, because Kamari's like, I did it with 2 scrubs. Okay, I put up 900 yards with nobody, with T-ball pitchers being quarterbacks. Okay, so it really actually puts the onus on the OC and Jalen Jones to produce for Kamari Everett. You see what I'm saying? So that's the key I want to see, because the issue that I had with Jalen Jones is he couldn't make the routine throws. He couldn't just catch it and throw it. You know, the one step and throws, or the 1, 2, 3 and let it go. So if he cannot do that, Kamari Everett is going to be in trouble, because that's what you listen. I'm going to do what you can do well. I'm going to go see your film. I'm going to scout you out. And I saw you back when you was at Jack State. You couldn't make the routine throws. So I'm going to press you and blitz you until you can't stand it no more. So it's just those issues that might arise with Jalen. But if he can get comfortable, if the OC can put him in the right position, if they can get a great RPO system, listen, Jalen Jones is legit 4.3 speed. He is next level speed. Let that boy get loose if you want to. He's going to hit his head on the goalpost. So you have to incorporate that aspect of Jalen Jones's game. And if the OC can do that, Bethune can be very, 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 very dangerous. Let me go to JB. What's up, JB? Talk to me.
What's up, gentlemen? How you doing? Blue, good to see you again, sir.
What's up, man?
Guys, first of all, I want to say thank you to you as well for earlier today on today's show for defending Blue, and also for calling out those idiots who had something to say about Blue's list, who expects a certain amount of players to come from one school and everything else just because their guys aren't listed there. They think that, okay, well, the list is fraudulent. No, their gameplay is fraudulent, but I'm going to leave that alone for right now. Blue, I got a couple of questions for you. First of all, of the 2 safeties from Montana that were first and second team, I could definitely see that, because I saw their games against Eastern Washington. And of course, even though Barrier did go for like 500 plus, those guys really kind of held their own against that offense. I mean, it's like you kind of tell, even though Barrier had his numbers, they were kind of ran off the field to a certain degree. I mean, the game was not that close, to be honest with you.
No.
And then the other question I have is, do you think Xavier Gibson wins the Peyton Award this year? That's my
yes. To the second question, I think he's gonna. I think at wide receiver, Xavier Gibson is so good. I think he could win the Walter Payton Award. The only question I have is, usually when wide receivers have a huge season, the quarterback does too. So that puts Trey Self right in that conversation, and Trey Self is already getting a lot of attention. So the only thing I think that helps Gibson is that he was established before Self. And so, and also on top of that, the Walter Payton voters really and truly, they've done a really good job of giving it to wide receivers. Cooper Kupp and multiple wide receivers have won it throughout the 2000s. So I think Gibson for me would be my pick right now. I think he's an absolute stud. I think I would give the lean for the Buck Buchanan Award to Justin Ford for Montana. Out of the two DBs there, Justin Ford is just that guy, and he's a game changer. And for me, the first Montana game, really and truly, Barrier had one of his worst games of the season. In that game, they flexed to ESPN2 that night at like 9:30. He really and truly didn't play well. And then if you remember, Justin Ford scored the pick 6 that ended Eastern Washington season. He picked 6 Eric Barrier and ended that playoff game in the second round. So I think when you look at that Montana defense, you got Robbie Hawk, you got Justin Ford, you got Patrick O'Connell back at linebacker, who had like 130 tackles last year. I mean, man, you've got some studs. The only question I have is who's going to develop on the defensive line as a bona fide pass rusher. That'd be the only question I have for the Montana defense. But man, listen, they are stacked, and that's why they're the number 3 team in the country right now in the preseason polls.
Now, I did one of the preseason polls. I think they had Montana State ranked above them. So I'm wondering how the right now.
I don't remember which one it is. It was one poll out of Athlon and Hero Sports had Montana State at 3, Montana at 4, and the other one was switched. I can't remember which one is which off the top of my head, but they're a top 5 team consensus for everybody. I think I have Montana 3 in mind that I'm going to release soon, but And I like Montana a lot. The question really comes for me on the offensive side. They got to replace some playmakers, man.
Gotcha. And then of course, guys, one could be for you. So I guess kind of like a dream case scenario. Let's say, for example, that Jackson, they finally get they feel like they're quote unquote deserves and go to the postseason, where they play against Stephen F. Austin, and either Shiloh or Travis Hunter get the task of guarding Xavier Gibson. He goes for about $150 against those guys. That will be it's kind of amusing to watch at the same time.
Man, listen, I will pay good money to see, and I'm not even talking about just like, I would pay good money to see Jack State in the playoff game. I would, man, listen, you couldn't pay me enough money to see them in a playoff game. You couldn't pay me enough to see FAMU play Southeast Louisiana again. You know what I'm saying? There's multiple aspects. I think like for what I think the SWAC is doing, like, if I'm being honest, Southern's schedule really disappoints me because I feel like they have an uber amount of talent. Like, I think Dooley has just overloaded in talent, and I would have liked to see them go against a Nickel State, a Southeast Louisiana or something like that. So I think the SWAC teams, with the influx of talent, have to go out and schedule these teams. Even if you don't care about the playoffs, it's all cool and dandy. Just go out and schedule some of these teams, man. Like Jack State with Campbell and all these teams. Like, see what you're really made of and see what you're working with. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be great. But anything else, Jay, before I let you go?
One quick thing. Blue, which SWAC versus FCS game are you looking forward to the most? And I know this is wishful thinking, but do you see anyone in the FCS giving NDSU a run for this year, or is it going to be 10 and 12 years?
For me, so I answer your first question. For me, I know everyone's hyping up the Jackson State Campbell game. Listen, Stephen F. Austin Alcorn is that game. Like, for me, I know this is going to sound crazy. I'm more excited for that game than the OBC. Just me personally, you get KJ Kinsler versus Xavier Gibson. Sign me up all day for that. I need to see that. And on top of that, I got a lot of questions. I got a lot of questions about Alcorn going into the season, especially losing Felix Harper, losing was it Pringle at wide receiver? Because I believe Bowler came back. So Pringle at wide receiver, and then on top of that, their defense is completely, I would say, rebuilt from the D line to the linebacker spot. So I love that matchup, and plus they're going to Lorman too. You get to go. I mean, that stadium can be electric as well. So we're gonna find out a lot about Alcorn and Stephen F. Austin that game, because Alcorn also gets them. Stephen F. Austin plays week 0, and they got to go play Jacksonville State in Montgomery in a really, really tough game. And Jacksonville State this year has more scholarships because they're about to transition. So in their transition years, they can have 85 scholarships. So that's going to be a tough game. They brought in Rich Rodriguez as head coach. That team's not going to be an easy win. So if Stephen F. Austin loses that game, that Alcorn game, the stakes are through the roof for that one if they want to stay in contention for the WAC.
Hey, appreciate the call, JB.
Oh, and the second question, my bad. I blanked on that. Yes, I think really and truly, man, I think it's a 50-50 race right now between South Dakota State and North Dakota State. South Dakota State, I really do think, if depending on how the bracket turns out, I wouldn't be surprised if it's South Dakota State, North Dakota State in Frisco for the national title, and they're going to have to move that game.
Yeah, I was say that
stadium is not going to be able to hold it.
I have to say that game has to go back up north. I don't feel like that's fair for if a North Dakota, South Dakota team that they have to all come down to Frisco. They should make that in Minnesota.
Well, I don't talk about like that. They won't move it for, Montana State and North Dakota State play. But for me, it got lucky because they did what the SWAC did with some contracts. They signed it too long. They gave Frisco a super long contract to like 2025 a few years back. Ooh. But now the FCS popularity is growing. And so that stadium, they sell it out every single FCS national championship. Like last year, the tickets sold out like the first day for the national championship because Montana State and North Dakota State have great traveling fan bases. They just need a bigger stadium. You can keep it in Texas, but put it in a bigger stadium. Or for me, I think the best location, find somewhere right in the middle of the country, like in Kansas City. would be perfect. Your northern teams wouldn't have to travel very far. Your southern teams would have to travel about a certain amount. I think Kansas City and Arrowhead would be a perfect location for it. I mean, you might not have to open the upper decks for most schools, but like I still think that would be a reasonable one. But listen, Mark Gronkowski is coming back off of injury. He missed all of last season for South Dakota State. He was the player of the year in the spring season, was a key to them making that national championship run. He's back. They got Isaiah Davis at running back. You just saw all the offensive linemen they got on all the American lists. The defense is still loaded. Listen, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, and it's a race for third.
Appreciate the call, JB.
Yeah, I saw the topic and,
go ahead.
and the title game. You're right about that. Those guys were nice. You're right about that. Thanks, Scotty.
No problem. Appreciate JB. All right, Blue. So we're the call lines are closing down. One player. I'm gonna give one player that you're most excited from your All American list that you're most excited to see coming into next year.
Oh man, I could pick anybody on there. For me, I still got to go Justin Ford, man. I'm pumped to see what he does in year 2. It was his first year at Montana, and that dude broke like all kind of records. Like I mentioned with all his stats earlier, he's got the measurables, he's got the mentality, like I told you earlier, where he was like, man, I want to trash talk the head coach, and then I want to get in their head. He's got everything you want, man, in a DB, and I think that Montana defense with as much talent with Patrick O'Connell, Hawk in the back end, I think next year, man, with the Big Sky kind of open, I think Justin Ford can replicate that, and I would love to see him break the FCS record for interceptions. I think it's around like 12 or 13 on the year or something like that. And I think he's going to make a run at double-digit interceptions next year. And if I had to pick an offensive guy, Xavier Gibson, bar none, that dude is different. Listen, you're a former wide receiver, man. Listen, just treat yourself and go watch the film on Xavier Gibson because he's different.
I definitely will. I think for me, I'm expecting a lot from Isaiah Land. You know, if I'm being honest, if I'm gonna keep it a whole buck. I feel like his FCS Defensive Player of the Year wasn't. I don't think he should have got it. And I don't
either. Troy Anderson should have won it.
I don't think he should have got it. And you saw it in Southeast Louisiana when he went up against a comparable O-line, what happened? He didn't sniff Cole Kelly. So he, to me, has to come back this next year and, to me, prove why he was the FCS Defensive Player of the Year. That's just my personal opinion, because if you want to see, you don't have Marquise Bell, you don't have Collier, you have to show me why you were the FCS Defensive Player of the Year. And I think he has to come back better and bigger, faster, stronger for next year, especially with them losing the people that they lost. And then offensively, listen, I want to see the kid from South Dakota State, the guy that you said should have been on it and not
Isaiah Davis.
I want to see what he looks like having a full year, because like you said, it's different when you're a guy, when you become the guy. So I definitely want to see that, and I'm excited to see what goes on with him in South Dakota State. I'll be trying to look out for that every now and again, check him out. And listen, the funny thing about the Stephen F. Austin game at Alcorn, let me say this, Alcorn, this is your opportunity to show what a home crowd advantage is like, because don't say we don't care about Stephen F. Austin, because they'll come into your place and put 40 on you in a heartbeat. All right. And that's not what you want. So go out there, get your people together, make sure they show up. All right. And make sure it's a home crowd that they can be scared of. You see what I'm saying? So let's not do that. All right. We show up and show out, show them why they shouldn't come back to Norman and go out and win the freaking game. All right, that's what I want. And the game that I'm really excited to see, North Texas against Texas Southern.
Ooh.
That is a winnable. Listen, if you don't know nothing about North Texas football, them Denton Eagles or whatever they want to call themselves, all right, because I'm from the Texas. That is a win. If Andrew Body does what he did to Rice to North Texas, they win that game. That is one of the games I'm most excited to see is Texas Southern versus University.
What would that storyline be, bro? The first SWAC FBS win since 1985, and it's Texas Southern.
And my boy,
and it's Texas Southern. Like y'all gonna let Texas Southern carry the conference on their backs? Like where are the Bluebloods, bro? Where's Southern? Where's the Jackson State University? Like where y'all at? Where's Grambling? You guys got the G, and you're gonna leave it to Texas Southern?
Listen, man, I see it. I listen, that is a game I am so geeked to see. I think it will be.
Now, this is true. Howard carried the MEAC over UNLV, so it can happen. It can happen. Listen, we're not going to say never, but just to give you an overview of Isaiah Davis, man, in 2 years, and he was hurt. He played a spring season, which is only like a few games, and he was hurt. And let's see how many games he played. 17 games. He's got 17 touchdowns, 1,500 yards, and has averaged 8 yards a carry for his career in the limited action.
That dude's he's got a touchdown per game he's been playing, and that is crazy.
Yeah, he averaged 8.5 yards per carry the spring season.
That's stupid. That's stupid.
He's a dog. Listen, I feel bad, but like, man, the injuries got me, and I get it. South Dakota State fans got a reason to be mad. He's an honorable mention. He'll be on the all MVFC team, but we'll see, man. Isaiah Davis is going to be a stud, though. I'll say that.
Oh, absolutely, man. Listen, I know everybody's gonna be waiting for your individual conference, all teams. Make sure, hey, listen, man, Blue is the real deal. Holy, my boy Blue.
Hey, and a big announcement. Listen, Light On said I'm back in the game, or we allowing polls on Light On. That's what he said. He rescinded it. So Scotty's video made an impact, man. So listen, hopefully he posts my conference. Hopefully he puts my conference All Americans on there.
Oh man, listen. But listen, won't he do it? Yes, he will. That's what I'm talking about. It's Light On. Be Switzerland. Keep it Switzerland, baby. Come on.
Franklin, so I've actually never said on the show who my favorite FCS team was. I've been an FCS fan for a while. I'll let y'all know my team is no longer in the FCS, sadly now. It was Jacksonville State because I'm from Alabama, and all the former Auburn players who transferred out of Auburn would always go play for Jacksonville State. So I always would ride with them as former Auburn players. So I always had a soft spot for Alabama school. So Samford, Alabama A&M, Alabama State, Jacksonville State, man, those are all my teams because I'm from Alabama.
Man, that shows how much I don't know FCS football. I thought Jacksonville State was in Florida.
No, it's in Jacksonville, Alabama, bro.
Man, I did not know that. Listen, I just figured out Auburn was in Alabama when Cam Newton won the national championship. That's when I found out Auburn was.
It's barely in Alabama. Like it's only like a 15-minute drive to Georgia. So
yeah, so listen.
It's like Georgia, like 0.5 or something like that. We'll call it that. It's just on 85 in the middle of nowhere. That's it. They just Georgia 0.5. We'll call it that.
Listen, man. Listen, that's how you know I don't be watching no FCS nothing. I could have sworn that thing was in Florida. I was like, Jacksonville State, of course it's in Jacksonville. Why wouldn't it be? That's why I'm not making no All-American list. That's exactly why.
There we go.
All-American.
Listen, Auburn from now on is West Georgia University. That's what we're going with. That's a good one, Chris. Listen, I'm an alum of West Georgia University now. That's what we're going with.
Yeah, man. Listen, that's what's up. But hey, Blue, anything coming out for you, man? You on your channel, my channel. What's up?
Hey, man, we've been shifting a lot of content over to the website, man, recently. So any recruiting news for the SWAC will probably be going on YouTube. But, man, we got interviews. We got Missouri State transfer AJ Toney from Stanford, man, 2-time All-American coming on the show tomorrow. That drops in the morning. And our preseason conference All-Americans starts dropping Friday. I'm kicking it off with the SWAC and ASUN. And then all next week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, man, we'll post 2 more conferences apiece. So stay tuned for that, man. I put all the teams in a randomizer and we're just rolling with that. So we'll have we're probably just going to do first team. I'm thinking maybe second team for all the conference All-Americans, but that'll be on the website, the bluebloodspod.com, and everything else, man, you can find on YouTube. Y'all know where to find us.
Come on, man. Listen, Bluebloods out here. Listen, in about 2 or 3 years, that boy going to be a publication. National, baby. Listen, that's what you be like, yo, you make it on the Blue Blood? Are you a Blue Blood? Yo, that's what they're going to be saying. Are you a Blue Blood? If you ain't a Blue Blood, I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and make that a brand. Hey, man, I love you, Blue, man. I'm glad that Light On changed his mind about that, and we can get your stuff on there because, like I said, you're impartial. You know what the hell you're talking about. And listen, man, I don't want nobody asking me about no FCS stuff because I ain't got the time for it. So I got kids. You heard me yelling at my kids earlier today. I'm out here parenting. You know what I'm saying? So I ain't got time for it, man. But listen, man, I appreciate it. For me, you guys, listen, you get it when it comes. That's how we do it on Offscript. You get it when it comes, all right? Because I ain't got no plans. I ain't doing nothing. But I did say I was going to break down the Florida Classic contract. That is coming, okay? That will be coming soon. I got to get my notes together, but everything will be coming soon. So listen, until next time, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to holler. God bless.